where am I with this whole picture? There's one other issue I want to bring up, why the vegan diet has been quite unsuccessful, and that is where Nicole and I both agreed it has to be to your constitution. And I've brought in your age cycle. That's really important. And but now I'm going to bring in your constitution. And what I found is that the high complex carbohydrate diet, low fat, moderate protein diet that the vegan religion talks about is not accurate, and led to all kinds of problems. And one reason it's not accurate, patently not accurate, is that about 60% of the people need a higher protein, and what we're finding is the optimum diet for longevity is one that gives you a low insulin and low leptin. Because all the long-lived people, pretty much, and I'm going to say that's not true in some places in Central America, South America, pretty much have a moderate fat and moderately low protein, moderately low carbohydrate, usually low carbohydrate. And that's the diet I'm talking about. And that's the diet where I've been tracking people, and I see that my people have been on that who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s are running normal leptins and normal insulins, which is the key to aging. An increased insulin and insulin resistance is the beginning of degeneration and beginning of aging. And so once you get that, it's very clear that the diet that's being proposed by the vegan world doesn't work. Now, how much doesn't it work? I'm saying it doesn't work, but how much? Well, first, and about 60% of the population need a higher protein. And so I say, wow, I got all these people who are trying to do a vegan diet, high complex carbohydrate, and it's not working. So I then got into studying about constitutions, and there's a lot of work over the last 70 years, not a new idea. And obviously, if you know Ayurvedic, it's clearly not a new idea. It's a 3,000-year-old idea. So, okay, fine, no problem. There is a little bit more to it. And so I compare my diabetes study, There's a Cure for Diabetes, in our protocol, which is a moderately high-fat diet, depending on your constitution, up to 40%, 50% fat, and fairly low protein and very low low carbohydrate, depending on your constitution, because there are some people who actually need more carbohydrate to make their system work. So there's variation. Gives very powerful results. How powerful? So our 3-week, 21-day program, it's a year program, but they're 21-day intensive, literally was 5 times more effective than the 5.5-month, 22-week program by the vegan research that did show you could have some impact on diabetes. It did happen. Of course, their theory, because they have an agenda, meat is bad, therefore fat is bad, wasn't looking at the story. So their thing is the main cause of diabetes is fat. But the overwhelming research that's come out is it's sugar, it's sugar, it's sugar. We don't want to get confused. Now this doesn't sit well, of course, with not only the vegan high complex carb, but the fruitarian world, because it doesn't look so good. But if you really look at the cancer treatment programs of the live fooders, they're all low sugar diets. Why? Well, because cancer cells need 10 to 50 times more sugar. Well, you got to be an idiot to give people sugar when that's activating the cancer cells. So the leading clinics like Hippocrates and other people, will tell you need a low sugar diet. So this is where we really differ with that. Not only do we get 5 times better results on every parameter. I'll give you an example. Your A1C, they got 1.5%, 1.2% drop in 22 weeks. So in 3 weeks, we're getting 5.6 drop of A1C. That's phenomenal. But it just tells you when you're doing it right. But they did as well as people, and there's a research in Sweden that basically did, again, like we did, low carb, but they did fish, which is higher. That's how they got their fat. And they got less well results than those folks did after 22 weeks. So they came in third in the results. When I say third, what I mean is the 3-week live food diet, which I'm going to tell you something else. It upgrades your genetic expression and your epigenetic expression, and none of those diets do that. So the second best was at 22 weeks, was the low carb with fish, which we saw in Sweden also, somewhere in the United States they did that. And the third best was the high complex carbohydrate, low fat diet. So that's a problem. It's not a longevity problem. So